As the months passed, the peace held. Human and Nacti scientists worked together. Traders exchanged goods between the species. Children from both sides learned each other's languages and songs. Hannah became the first human ambassador to the Nacti. Dayan became the first Nacti ambassador to humanity. Together, they traveled between the worlds, building bridges of understanding. The war was over. The age of cooperation had begun. And it all started with a lonely scientist who chose to see a person instead of a monster, and an alien prince who chose to trust instead of hate. In the end, the greatest victory was not won with weapons or tactics. It was won with the simple human ability to love without boundaries, to adopt strangers as family, and to choose hope over fear. The galaxy would never be the same. And that was exactly what it needed. The alarms screamed through every corridor of the Aegis. Red lights flashed as Captain Li Wu ran toward the bridge, his boots pounding on the metal floor. Behind him, crew members rushed to their battle stations. "Report!" he shouted as he reached the command center. "Long-range sensors are picking up massive energy signatures," said Lieutenant Kyun Soo from the navigation station. "At least 50 ships, maybe more. They just dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of our solar system." Admiral Tejo appeared. On the main screen, his face grim. He was commanding the defense fleet from his flagship, the Destiny. "Lee, we have a problem. These ships are not like anything in our databases. They appear to be alive." Captain Lee stared at the tactical display. The enemy ships looked like giant insects made of black metal and flesh. They moved through space like swimming creatures, their hulls pulsing with a sick green light. "Who are they?" he asked. "They call themselves the Keth Empire," Admiral Tejo replied. "They sent us one message before they started moving toward Earth. They said they have come to feed." In the research lab, Dr. Hannah Kim felt something change inside her body. The moment the alien ships appeared, her blood began to burn, her heart beat faster, and her vision became sharper. She could smell something in the air that made her want to growl. "Hannah, are you all right?" Dr. June Park asked. He was packing up important research files in case they needed to evacuate. "Something is wrong," she said, holding her head. "I can smell them." "Smell what?" "We are in space. The enemy ships. They smell like death and hunger." June looked at her with concern. "That is impossible. You cannot smell something that far away." But Hannah could smell them. The scent filled her nose and made her stomach turn. It was the smell of creatures that ate other living things while they were still alive. It was the smell of pure evil. First battle happened near Mars. The human defense fleet met the Keth. Ships in the space between the Red Planet and the asteroid belt. What followed was a disaster. The Keth ships were not just machines. They were living creatures that had been grown for war. When human weapons hit them, they healed themselves. When human ships got close, the Keth ships opened their mouths and swallowed them whole. "Our weapons are not working," Admiral Tejo reported to all ships. "Their hulls are regenerating faster than we can damage them." The Keth warriors were even worse than their ships. They looked like giant insects with too many arms and legs. Their faces were all teeth and hunger. They moved fast and felt no fear. The first Keth boarding pods hit the Aegis. Captain Lee ordered all non-military personnel to the safe rooms. But Hannah could not hide. Something inside her was calling her to fight. She was on the bridge when the hull breach alarm sounded. Keth had cut through the outer wall and were climbing inside the ship. Captain Lee and his security team prepared to defend the bridge. "Stay behind us," he told the civilians who had not made it to the safe rooms. The blast doors opened. The Keth warriors poured in. They were bigger than humans, with claws that could cut through metal. Their eyes were black holes that seemed to suck in light. The security team opened fire, but the Keth moved too fast. They jumped from wall to wall like spiders, avoiding the laser blasts. One of them grabbed a security officer and bit off his head. Hannah watched in horror as the Keth advanced toward the bridge crew. Her friend Su Yen was behind the communications console, trying to call for help. A Keth warrior saw her and started moving in her direction. Something snapped inside Hannah's mind. The burning in her blood became a fire that filled her whole body. Her vision turned red, and she could suddenly see every movement the Keth made before they made it. She opened her mouth and let out a sound that was not human. It was a roar that came from deep in her chest, a sound that spoke of ancient hunts and endless wars. The sound echoed through the bridge and made the metal walls shake. The Keth warriors stopped moving. For the first time since they had boarded the ship, they looked afraid. They turned to stare at Hannah, and in their black eyes, she saw recognition. The largest Keth warrior dropped the human he was holding and pointed at Hannah with one of his clawed hands. When he spoke, his voice was like grinding metal. "Blood Hunter," he said in broken human language. The sleepers wake. The other Keth warriors began to back away. They moved toward the hull breach, never taking their eyes off Hannah. The large one continued to stare at her. "We thought you were all gone," he said. "We thought we had eaten them all." Then they were gone, climbing back through the hole they had made in the hull. The bridge was quiet, except for the sound of alarms and the heavy breathing of the survivors. Captain Lee looked at Hannah with new eyes. "What just happened?" "I don't know," she said, but that was not true. She knew exactly what had happened. The blood in her veins had recognized an ancient enemy, and it had responded the only way it knew how. Dr. June helped her to a chair. "Your eyes were glowing," he said quietly.
"Ed!"
"And that sound you made, that was not human." "I was," Hannah said. "They called me a blood hunter." Captain Lee activated the ship's communication system. "Admiral Taeho," says Captain Lee, "we need to talk about Dr. Hannah Kim. I think she might be the key to defeating these creatures. The battle for Mars was lost. The human fleet had to retreat to Earth's orbit, but word spread quickly about what had happened on the Aegis. The Keth warriors, who had shown no fear of human weapons, had run away from one woman's roar. Admiral Taeho called an emergency meeting of all ship captains. "We need to know everything about Dr. Kim's family history," he said. "If there are others like her, we need to find them." That night, Hannah sat in her quarters and tried to understand what was happening to her. She looked at her hands and saw that her nails had grown longer and sharper. When she looked in the mirror, her eyes reflected light like an animal's eyes. She thought about her grandmother's stories. The old woman had always said that their family would be needed someday when the darkness came to eat the light. Her grandmother had called it the Great Hunt, when the blood hunters would wake from their long sleep. "We are not just human," her grandmother had whispered on her deathbed. "We are the guardians. We are the ones who hunt the hunters." Hannah touched the mirror and saw her reflection change. For just a moment, she saw not a human scientist, but a warrior with glowing eyes and teeth like daggers. She saw herself as she truly was. The Keth had awakened something that had been sleeping in her blood for generations. They had come to feed on humanity, but they had made a terrible mistake. They had woken up the one thing in the galaxy that was designed to hunt them. The war had begun, and the blood hunters were stirring from their long dream. The war was going badly for humanity. Every day brought news of another colony lost, another fleet destroyed. The Keth Empire spread across human space like a disease. Consuming everything in their path, Dr. June Park worked without sleep in his laboratory on Earth. Admiral Taeho had given him unlimited resources and one simple order: find more people like Hannah Kim. The future of humanity might depend on it. "I have run the genetic tests on 10,000 people," he told Hannah during their daily video call. "Only 37 show the same markers as your blood." Hannah was still aboard the Aegis, which had become a mobile research station. She felt different every day. Her senses were sharper, her reflexes faster. Sometimes she caught herself growling at nothing. 37 is not many," she said, looking at the data on her screen. "It is more than we had before.
How did these people
Are scattered across 12 different worlds. I am sending out teams to bring them here. What if they don't want to come? Then we lose this war." The first person they brought in was Engineer Bae Min from the mining station on Titan. He was a quiet man who fixed machines and kept to himself. But lately, he had been having dreams that made him wake up screaming. "I see myself hunting things in the darkness," he told Dr. June when they met. "I see myself running through space without a ship, chasing creatures that smell like fear." The second was pilot Kyung Soo from the outer colonies. She had been flying transport ships for 15 Years. But in the past month, her flying had become impossible to explain. She could navigate through asteroid fields with her eyes closed. She could sense enemy ships before they appeared on radar. It's like I can smell them coming, she said. The Keth ships have a scent that makes my teeth hurt. The third was Marine. Sergeant Jin A, who had been fighting the Keith on the front lines. She had survived battles that killed her entire unit. Her commanding officers said she moved like a wild animal, always knowing where the enemy would strike next. My fingernails. Keep growing, she said, holding up her hands. No matter how much I cut them, they grow back longer and sharper. Dr. June brought all three of them to the research facility on Luna Base. When they met Hannah for the first time, something remarkable happened. The moment they were all in the same room, the air seemed to change. Hannah could smell each of them clearly, and she knew they could smell her too. It was not a human scent. It was something older, something that spoke of pack bonds and shared hunts. You are like me, Bei-min said to Hannah. His voice was deeper than before, almost a growl. We are all like each other, Kyung-soo replied. Her eyes were brighter, reflecting the light like mirrors. Jin A stood up and walked to the window, can sense the Keth ships near Jupiter. They are planning something. That is impossible, Dr. June said. Jupiter is millions of kilometers away. I can smell their fear, Jin A said. They know we are gathering. Over the next few days, the four awakened humans spent time together. The more time they spent as a group, the stronger their abilities became. They could communicate with low sounds that other humans could not hear. They could sense each other's emotions and intentions. Hannah found herself becoming their leader, though none of them had chosen it that way. The others looked to her for guidance, and she felt responsible for them. We need to understand what we are, she told them during one of their meetings. My grandmother's stories spoke of blood hunters who protected the galaxy from great evils. Kind of evils? Asked Bei-min. Things that eat entire worlds? Things that bring darkness to the stars. Captain Li Wu visited them on Luna Base. He was amazed by what he saw. The four humans moved differently now, with the smooth grace of predators. Their eyes were always alert, always watching. Admiral Teho wants to send you into combat, he told them. Keth have established a base on Europa. We need to know if you can fight them. We can fight them, Hannah said. Her voice carried certainty that surprised even her. How do you know? Because that is what we were made for. The mission to Europa was classified top secret. Only a few people knew that for humans with impossible abilities were being sent to attack a Keth stronghold. The transport ship dropped them on the surface of Jupiter's moon in the middle of the night cycle. The Keth had built their base inside a deep crater, protected by energy shields and guard towers. The plan is simple, Hannah told the others as they prepared for the attack. We go in fast, hit them hard, and get out. What about the human prisoners? Asked Jin. Intelligence reports said the Keth were holding over 300 humans in the base. Save them all, Hannah said. That is what we do. As they approached the Keth base, Hannah felt the change beginning. Her blood grew hot, and her muscles became stronger. Her hearing picked up sounds from inside the base that should have been impossible to detect. The others were changing too. Bei-min's hands had grown claws that could cut through metal. Kung-soo moved so fast, she seemed to disappear and reappear. Jin-A's teeth had become sharp fangs that gleamed in the moonlight. Remember, Hannah whispered as they reached the perimeter. We are not just human anymore. We are something the Keth have feared for a very long time. First Keth guard never knew what hit him. Hannah moved like shadow and struck like lightning. Her claws tore through the alien's armor as if it were paper. The second guard tried to raise an alarm. Kyung-soo was already behind him. She moved so fast that the guard's weapon was in pieces before he could fire it. Inside the base, the Keth warriors were sleeping in their breeding chambers. They woke to find 4 nightmares in their midst. The awakened humans moved through the base like a pack of hunting wolves. Working together with perfect coordination, the Keth tried to fight back, but they were not prepared for this kind of enemy. These humans did not use weapons or tactics. They used teeth and claws and an ancient fury that came from their blood. Bei Min tore through a wall to reach the human prisoners. Kyung-soo disabled the base's power systems with her bare hands. Gina cleared a path to the exit, leaving a trail of dead Keth warriors behind her. Hannah found herself in the command center. Facing the Keth base commander, he was larger than the other Keth with scars that told of many battles. "You were not supposed to exist," he said in broken human language. "We destroyed your kind long ago." "You destroyed some of us," Hannah replied. "But we planted seeds in the human race. We've been waiting for you to return." The commander raised his weapon, but Hannah was faster. She moved like liquid death, and when she was done, the commander was just another body on the floor. The rescue mission was a complete success. All 300 human prisoners were saved, and the Keth base was destroyed. The cost was becoming clear. As they flew back to Luna Base, Hannah looked at her companions. They were still changing, becoming more animal and less human with each passing hour. Jin-A was speaking in growls. Bayman's eyes no longer looked entirely human. "What is happening to us?" Kyung-soo asked. "We are becoming what we were always meant to be," Hannah answered. "The question is whether we can still remember who we used to be." The beast was awakening in all of them. The only question was whether they could control it or whether it would control them. The news of the Europa mission spread through the human fleet like wildfire. For humans had destroyed an entire Keth base and saved 300 prisoners. The impossible had become possible. Admiral Taeho called an emergency meeting of all military commanders. Earth's defense was failing, and the Keth Empire was only 3 days away from reaching the home world. "We need more like them," he said, looking at the mission reports. "Dr. June, how many others can we find?" "I have identified 200 people with the genetic markers," Dr. June replied. "But we do not know if they will all awaken like the first 4. We have to try. Send out ships to collect them all." The word went out across all human colonies. Anyone who had been having strange dreams, anyone whose body was changing, anyone who felt different was asked to report to military stations. The response was larger than expected. People came from mining stations, from farming worlds, from research outposts. They came because they had been dreaming of battles among the stars. They came because they could smell enemies that were not there. They came because something in their blood was calling them. Hannah watched as more awakened humans arrived at Luna Base. Each group was different, but they all shared the same basic changes: sharper senses, faster reflexes, and an ability to smell the Keth from incredible distances. "We are forming packs," she told Captain Li Wu during one of his visits. "Groups of 4 or 5 people who work together naturally." "How many packs do we have now?" 12 active packs. Maybe 20 more forming." Captain Lee studied the reports. "The awakened humans are performing beyond all expectations. Pack 7 destroyed a Keth supply convoy yesterday. Pack 3 saved an entire space station." Okay. But Hannah was worried about something else. "We are losing ourselves," she said. "Always. The longer we stay awakened, the harder it becomes to think like humans." "What do you mean?" "Yesterday, Jinna tried to eat raw meat." Ain't Bay. Min has stopped speaking in words. He only growls now. Kwang-soo sleeps hanging upside down like a bat. Are they still fighting for humanity? Yes. But for how long? We are becoming something else. Something that might not care about saving humans. The first major test came when the Keth attacked the colony world of New Sol. The planet had 5 million human settlers and was one of the most important agricultural worlds in human space. Admiral Taeho deployed 6 packs to defend the planet. Hannah led Pack Alpha, which included her original team plus 2 new members, Daehoon, a former teacher who could now see in complete darkness, and So-Ra, a young woman whose hearing had become so sharp she could detect heartbeats from a kilometer away. The battle for New Sol was unlike anything in human military history. The packs did not fight like soldiers. They fought like hunting animals, using tactics that came from instinct rather than training. Pack Alpha landed on the planet's surface while the Keth were still deploying their forces. They moved through the forests around the main city like shadows, striking without warning and disappearing before the enemy could respond. "The Keth are using human prisoners as shields," So-Ra reported during the battle. "I can hear their hearts beating in the enemy camp." "Then we go in quiet," Hannah said. "We save the prisoners first, Then we hunt. What followed was not a battle, but a massacre. The awakened humans moved through the Keth forces like death itself. They used no weapons except their claws and teeth. They made no sound except low growls that spoke to each other in a language older than words. Dehun moved through the darkness like it was bright daylight, his claws cutting through Keth armor. So Ra used her enhanced hearing to locate every enemy, guiding the pack to their targets. The original 4 members had become even more deadly, their abilities growing stronger with each fight. The Keith tried to retreat, but the packs were everywhere. They had surrounded the entire enemy force without being detected. When the aliens tried to run, they found only more nightmares waiting for them. "This is Pack Alpha," Hannah reported to Admiral Tejo. "New Sol is secure. All human prisoners rescued. Enemy forces eliminated. Casualties, none on our side. The Keth never had a chance. But the victory came with a price. When the packs returned to their base, they were barely recognizable as human. Their eyes glowed in the dark. Their teeth had become fangs. Some of them had grown actual claws instead of fingernails. Dr. June was horrified by what he saw. "Are changing too fast," he told Admiral Tejo. "At this rate, they will be completely feral within a month." "But they are winning the war," the Admiral replied. "The Keth are retreating from 6 star systems. They are afraid of the packs. What good is winning if we lose our humanity in the process?" The question haunted everyone at the base. Awakened. Humans were becoming incredibly effective warriors, but they were also becoming something that might not be human anymore. Hannah gathered all the pack leaders for a meeting. 12 men and women sat around a table, but their eyes reflected light. Like animals, and they communicated as much through growls and scent as through words. "We need to talk about what we are becoming," she said. "We are becoming what we were always meant to be," replied Seo Jun, the leader of Pack 7. "We are becoming hunters." "But are we still human? Does it matter? We are saving humanity. Matters if we stop caring about the humans we are supposed to protect." The debate continued for hours. Some packs wanted to embrace their transformation completely. Others wanted to find a way to stay human. All of them agreed on one thing: the Keth had to be stopped. "I have been having dreams," said Minho, leader of Pack 12. "Dreams of something worse than the Keth, something that is coming from the deep darkness." "What kind of something?" "Something that eats stars. Something that the Keth themselves are afraid of." The revelation changed everything. If the Keth were running from something even worse, then humanity's problems were just beginning. The awakened humans were not just fighting for their species. They were fighting for the entire galaxy. "We need to be ready," Hannah said. "Whatever is coming, we will face it together." "As a pack," added Jin'e, her voice more growl than words. As a pack, the others agreed. The assembly was complete. 12 packs of awakened humans, each one a weapon forged from ancient blood and modern desperation. They were no longer entirely human, but they were humanity's best hope for survival. The war was about to enter its final phase. The blood hunters were ready to answer the call that had been sleeping in their genes for thousands of years. The war was turning. Across human space, the Keth Empire was retreating from world after world. Their once mighty fleets fled before the pack units, and their warriors abandoned bases at the first sign of awakened humans. But the victory was bitter. The pack members were changing faster than anyone had expected. Many could no longer speak human languages. They communicated through growls, scent, and body language that normal humans could not understand. Dr. June watched in horror as his research subjects became something else entirely. "We are losing them," he told Admiral Tejo. "Pack 5 attacked a human supply convoy yesterday. They thought the humans were enemies." "Were there casualties?" "No, but only because the convoy commander was smart enough to shut off all weapons and surrender. The pack members sniffed them for 10 minutes before realizing they were human." Admiral Tejo rubbed his tired eyes. "How long before they cannot tell the difference at all?" "At this rate, maybe 2 weeks." The problem was getting worse. Pack 8 had to be recalled from the front lines after they started hunting human civilians who smelled like fear. Pack 11 refused to follow orders from human commanders, recognizing only the authority of their pack leader. Most disturbing of all, some pack members had stopped eating cooked food. They preferred their meat raw and still warm. A few had been caught trying to eat Keth's corpses after battles. We need to find a way to slow down the transformation, Dr. June said. Or we need to find a way to control it. What does Dr. Kim say? She says it cannot be stopped. The awakening is a one-way process. Once the blood remembers what it is supposed to be, it will not go back to being human. Hannah was leading Pack Alpha on a mission to the outer colonies. When she felt the first signs of the true change, they were hunting a group of Keth raiders who had been attacking mining stations, and the scent of their enemies was driving her into a frenzy. There, she growled, pointing to a cluster of asteroids. They are hiding in the rocks. Her pack spread out without needing orders. They had learned to move as one creature with many bodies. Baymin took the high approach, using his claws too. Climb along the asteroid surfaces. Kyungsu circled around from below, her enhanced speed making her invisible to Keith's sensors. Janae and the others prepared for the main assault. They no longer used human weapons. Their claws were sharper than any knife, and their teeth could bite through Keth's armor. The attack was swift and brutal. The Keth never had a chance to fight back, but when it was over, Hannah found herself standing over the body of the enemy leader, her mouth full of alien blood. The taste was not unpleasant. In fact, it was satisfying in a way that frightened her. She realized she had been feeding on the enemy without thinking about it. Alpha leader to base, she said into her communicator, trying to keep her voice steady. Keth raiders eliminated. No human casualties. Copy that, Alpha leader. Return to base for debriefing. But Hannah did not want to return to base. She wanted to keep hunting. The smell of more Keth was in the air, and every instinct in her body was telling her to follow. The scent it took all her willpower to gather her pack and head home. She was losing the battle for her own humanity, and she knew it. The situation became critical when Dr. June made a disturbing discovery. He had been studying ancient alien texts that the Vorthons had provided, looking for clues about the blood. Hunters. I found something, he told Admiral Tejo during an emergency meeting. The blood hunters were not just warriors. They were designed as a final weapon against cosmic threats. What kind of threats? Threats that could destroy entire civilizations? The texts speak of creatures that ate stars, beings that brought darkness to whole galaxies. The blood hunters were created to hunt these ultimate predators. That explains why they are so effective against the Keth. But there is more. The blood hunters were designed with a built-in safety feature. After they eliminated a threat, they would enter a dormant state. Their consciousness would be suppressed, and they would sleep until needed again. Admiral Tejo felt a chill run down his spine. Are you saying that our people are programmed to shut down after they win? I am saying they are programmed to become something that is not human. The awakening is not just about fighting the Keth. It is about becoming apex predators that can hunt anything in the galaxy. The implications were terrifying. If the blood hunters were fully awakened, they might not stop with the Keth. They might see all other species as potential threats or prey. We need to warn the pack leaders, Admiral Tejo said. I already tried. They are not listening to human authority anymore. They only respond to pack hierarchy. That night, Hannah was in her quarters when she received an unexpected communication. It was not from human command. It was from the Keth Empire itself. The message was transmitted in several languages, including broken human speech. It came from someone who called himself the Keth Emperor. Blood hunters of the human species, the message began. We request communication. We wish to negotiate. Hannah was surprised. The Keth had never tried to negotiate before. It only attacked and consumed. We were not invaders, the Emperor continued. We were refugees. We fled across the galaxy from something that hunts us, something that eats entire worlds. The message included data files that showed the true history of the Keth Empire. It had once been a peaceful species living in the galactic core. Something had come from the deep darkness between galaxies. Something that consumed stars and left only empty void behind. We called them the Devourers, the Emperor said. They have been following us for 1,000 years. They are almost here. Hannah felt her blood turn cold. The Devourers were the true enemy. the cosmic threat that had originally awakened the blood hunters. The Keth had just been running from them. "Know you are the ancient hunters," the message continued. "We know you were created to fight the Devourers. We offer our alliance. Together, we might survive what is coming." Hannah looked at the star charts included in the message. The Devourers were massive, larger than planets. They moved through space like a plague, consuming everything in their path. And according to the data, they would reach human space within days. She activated her communicator and sent a message to all pack leaders. "Emergency meeting. All Alphas report to Luna Base immediately. We have a new enemy." The real war was about to begin, and this time, humanity would need every advantage they could get. The Blood Hunters were about to face the enemy they were truly designed to fight. The hunt was beginning, and the prey was something that ate stars. The Devourers came from the darkness between stars like a nightmare made real. Their ships were not ships at all, but living creatures the size of moons. They moved through space by eating light itself, leaving trails of absolute darkness behind them. Admiral Tejo watched the sensor readings with growing horror. "How many of them are there?" "At least 50 major entities," reported Lieutenant Kyung-soo. "Each one is larger than Earth. They are surrounded by thousands of smaller creatures. Long until they reach us. 6 hours. Gathering near Earth's moon, but everyone knew their weapons would be useless against enemies this large. The only hope was the Blood Hunters, and they were changing faster than ever." Hannah stood in the command center of Luna Base, surrounded by the pack leaders. They barely looked human anymore. Their eyes glowed with inner fire, their teeth were fangs, and their hands had become claws. Most disturbing of all, they were growing larger, their bodies changing to match their new nature. "The Devourers are here," she said, her voice a deep growl. "This is what we were made for." "Finally," said Jin. Her words barely recognizable as human speech. "The real hunt begins." The other pack leaders nodded in agreement. They could smell the Devourers, even from this distance, and the scent filled them with both hunger and rage. These creatures were the ultimate prey, the enemy that their blood had been waiting to face for thousands of years. "What about the Keth?" asked Baymen. "Do we trust them?" "They are prey animals running from a predator," Hannah replied. "Today, they are our allies. Tomorrow, we will decide if they deserve to live." The plan was simple, but desperate. 24 pack units would combine into one massive hunting party. They would board the Devourer ships and attack from within, using their claws and teeth to tear the creatures apart from the inside. "This is a suicide mission," Admiral Tejo said when he heard the plan. "Those creatures are the size of worlds. How can you possibly hurt them?" "Because we are not human anymore," Hannah replied. "We are apex predators. We were designed to hunt gods." The transformation was accelerating. As the Devourers approached, the Blood Hunters felt their bodies changing even faster. They were becoming something that had never existed before, a perfect fusion of human intelligence and primal hunting instinct. Some of the pack members could no longer speak at all. They communicated through growls, scent, and a form of telepathy that connected all the awakened humans. They were becoming a single creature with many bodies, a pack mind focused on one goal: the hunt. The battle began in the space between Earth and Mars. The Devourers moved slowly, like cosmic whales feeding on the light of stars. As they passed, the space around them became darker, colder, emptier. "All pack units prepare for boarding action," Hannah commanded. But she was no longer really Hannah. She was something else, something that remembered hunting across the galaxy when the universe was young. The Blood Hunters launched themselves from their ships without spacesuits. Their bodies had adapted to the vacuum of space, growing thick skin and internal organs that could survive without air. They moved through the void like swimming predators, heading toward the nearest devourer. The creature was massive, beyond imagination. Its surface was covered in mouths that swallowed light and matter. Its body pulsed with a sick energy that made reality itself seem to bend around it. The Blood Hunters landed on its surface and began to dig. Their claws cut through the creature's hide like knives through paper. They burrowed deep into its body, following instincts that told them where to strike. Inside the devourer, they found a maze of tunnels and chambers. The walls were alive. Pulsing with the creature's heartbeat, the air was thick with a substance that would have killed any normal human, but the blood hunters breathed it easily. The heart, Hannah growled to her pack. We find the heart. They moved through the creature's body like antibodies fighting an infection, but they were not trying to heal the devourer. They were trying to kill it. The creature's immune system responded, sending wave after wave of smaller creatures to stop them. But the blood hunters were faster, stronger, and more vicious than anything the devourer had ever faced. Bei Min tore through a wall of muscle and found himself in a chamber filled with half-digested planets. The devourer had been feeding on entire worlds, storing them in its body like a spider storing flies. Kyung Soo found the creature's nervous system, a network of glowing tubes that carried information throughout its massive body. She began cutting through the tubes, severing the connections that allowed the creature to think and move. Janae and the others fought their way deeper into the creature's core, following the sound of its heartbeat. The heart was the size of a city, pumping dark energy through the creature's body. There, Hannah said, pointing at the massive organ. Kill that. We kill the creature. The final battle was brutal and primal. The blood hunters attacked the heart with everything they had, their claws and teeth tearing through tissues that were harder than diamond. The devourer fought back, flooding the chamber with acid and sending shock waves through its body. But the blood hunters were relentless. They had been created for this moment, bred over thousands of years to be the perfect predators. They tore into the heart like wolves bringing down a giant, working together with perfect coordination. When the heart finally stopped beating, the entire creature shuddered and died. The blood hunters felt a surge of satisfaction that was almost overwhelming. They had done what they were made to do, but the victory came with a price. The transformation was complete now. The blood hunters were no longer human in any meaningful sense. They were something new, something that had never existed before. As they emerged from the dead devourer, they looked up at the stars and felt the ancient hunger stirring in their blood. There were other threats out there, other prey to hunt. The galaxy was full of creatures that might need to be eliminated.
Oh, what now?
Asked one of the pack members, his voice barely recognizable. Hannah looked at Earth, hanging in the darkness like a blue jewel. She could smell the billions of humans living on its surface, and for a moment she felt the urge to hunt them too. But then she remembered who she had been. She remembered her grandmother's stories, her work in the laboratory, her friends who had believed in her. She remembered what it meant to be human.
Now we choose, she said. We can become the monsters that hunt everything, or we can become the guardians that protect what we love. The other blood hunters looked at her with glowing eyes.
They were no longer human, but they still had the power to choose what they would become. We are the guardians, she said firmly. We hunt the darkness so that others can live in the light, the pack agreed. They would accept their role as protectors of the galaxy, hunting the threats that no one else could face. But they would never forget that they had once been human, and that humanity was worth protecting. The war was over. The devourers were dead, the Keth were grateful allies, and humanity was safe. But the galaxy was vast, and there were always new threats emerging from the darkness. The blood hunters would be ready. They would hunt in the spaces between stars, keeping watch for the next cosmic threat. They were no longer human, but they were humanity's gift to the galaxy. In the end, they had found their true nature. They were not just beasts or just humans. They were something new, something that could stand between civilization and the void. The whisper in the dark had become a roar that echoed across the galaxy. The blood hunters had awakened. They would never sleep again. But in the quiet moments between hunts, when the stars were peaceful and the darkness was still, they would remember what they had once been. They would remember the woman who had whispered that the beast was her blood, and how no one had believed her until the war roared to life. And they would be grateful that sometimes the monsters are on our side.